Welcome into the Thunder basketball universe. We're back home after the last 3 games on the road. It was 3 games in 4 nights, actually. It was quite the road trip. The Thunder had spent actually the last 5 out of the last 6 games on the road. So being back home in Oklahoma City, we were recording this on Tuesday, November 21st. It is Thanksgiving week, and this is actually a really nice week for OKC. 1 game in a 4-day stretch.
Yeah, because it felt like we've been on the road for the last 2 weeks straight, which basically we have been. Besides that one quick little in-season tournament game back here in OKC against San Antonio, we got ourselves very familiar with the West Coast over the last couple weeks. So in between that trip to Sacramento and Portland, and then the long one to Golden State twice and to Portland, quite the little trip around the West Coast, and the Thunder acquitted itself very, very well.
They had quite a solid stretch, showed a lot of resilience, a lot of poise, a lot of maturity as well, and a lot of consistency. And we'll get into all of that, recapping these last 3 games for the Thunder, a really solid 3-game stretch for this group. But first things first, we're going to start with a little segment of Made You Look, because on this road trip there were a lot of eye-catching moments, and we're each going to choose one, but I think we can both agree that there were certainly more than one things that caught our eye this trip.
We will be getting into some of those other things over the next little bit here, but just to start us off, this is a moment that you weren't going to catch on your TV screens if you're watching Bally Sports, if you're listening on the radio. There was no broadcast angle that was going to get you this moment, and so that's why I really wanted to share this one. But at the very end of the first half up in Portland, the Thunder was really running up the score, and the shots were falling, the ball was really moving. OKC continued to just get great shot after great shot after great shot, and so there was this run out at the end of the half, and Shea had the ball going up floor, and he had a 3-on-1 fast break. And in the right corner is Isaiah Joe. You might have heard of him. He's made 16 out of his last 23 pointers.
He's a good shooter.
Yeah. On the other side, Lou Dort. He's hit a 3 in every single game so far this season besides 1.
Yep.
Also, like, one of Shea's best friends.
Or a roommate.
In the entire world. And so it was this great, like freeze frame moment that Shea had, where he just had just enough time. There were no defenders really near him yet. The one defender that he had in front of him was still a dribble or 2 away, and he had this great moment where he had to decide: am I going to pass it to Isaiah? Am I going to pass it to Lou Dort?
Right.
And both the guys were just smiling ear to ear,
what's he going to do?
Who's he going to do? Who's he going to pick? Who's he going to pick? And Shea ultimately decides to pass to the left to Dort. Dort cashes the 3. Before the shot even goes up, I could see Isaiah Joe in the right corner running down court, knowing that the shot's going to go down. Yeah. And he's laughing. Isaiah's laughing. And the Thunder is such intense competitors.
Yeah.
But they love the game of basketball. It's fun. It's a fun game. And
they love each other.
Right.
Yeah.
So in this moment, it was just such a perfect moment to bottle up of these guys so competitive.
Yeah.
But loving this moment that they can have with each other as teammates, that's fun and playful, and you get the 3 points out of it as well. I just thought that was a really cool moment.
And then you talked to Lou about it after the game too.
Yeah, and Lou was like, "Hey, I know Isaiah is a way better shooter than me, but I really appreciate the trust."
The trust was there. The trust was there, and that just goes to show. I mean, everyone's capable on this team, right? And so for Shea. I just love that everyone was smiling in that moment. That 2-second split that Shea had to be Isaiah or Lou. Who's it gonna be?
Right over our shoulders.
Yes,
here,
exactly. Yeah. And for everyone to just walk away smiling. Obviously, Lou drains the 3, no question. Just such a fun moment, especially in a game where the Thunder was executing really well. They were making great decisions. That's just a little icing on the cake that no one would have really noticed in real time.
Yeah. So, I mean, just a great way for these guys to close out the road trip on such a high positive note. Yeah. Not just because the shots were falling, but kind of even in that moment, how these things are happening as a group where everyone's feeling involved, everyone's feeling valued, and everyone's having fun together.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. My Made You Look is also pretty fun.
Yeah.
But you have to go back a few games. We're going to go back to Phoenix when we were in Arizona, in Phoenix, and there was a play. Cason Wallace on a run out throws a lob up to Jalen Williams. Jalen Williams dunks it. Hoorah. Go team. Fast forward to the first Golden State game. and Cason Wallace throws a lob to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
That's a combo that we have not seen yet.
We have not seen that. I mean, the lob to J-Dub is like, okay,
yeah,
Jalen led the team in dunks last year. Like, yes, that is a vertical threat that you're looking for.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. To Shai, I was like, certainly capable, but not something that we've seen. Secondly, Cason Wallace throwing lobs, not something we've seen. Now, we're still learning Cason, right? He's a rookie. He's, unveiling all of these new skills and attributes every single game. But that's two where I was like, I wonder if they're practicing this, because this seems a little too, like, consistent at this point. And so I asked Shai after the Golden State game, and I'm like, what's up with these lobs that Cason's? Like, Cason's throwing lobs to J-Dub, threw one to you, and he's like, yeah, that's new to all of us. We haven't, he's not doing that at practice. No, that's new to all of us. But as long as he keeps executing, we're good.
As long as he doesn't throw him into the third row,
exactly.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. I just thought that was so interesting. And like, Cason, he's so, Mark calls him non-pretentious, right? Like, he doesn't puff his chest out. He's not out there just showboating. He's just making the right play. But he has these like little slivers of just like highlight plays where you're like, oh, okay, all right. And he's throwing lobs in these moments where it's like, nobody knew that he did that, Yeah, and that's just a fun element that he's throwing out there now.
To your point, Mark Daigneault had probably the line of the year about Cason when he said, he doesn't play with his tuxedo on.
Right.
Like, he is a gritty, grimy player. He's a guy that's like no frills. He just makes the play. He sticks his nose in the play defensively. We saw him throughout the course of that road trip on high-level guys like Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. And he learned how to guard those guys.
Right.
You remember the first time that those two teams played here in OKC, Cason got burned a couple times by Klay Thompson. That was not the case in this little series out in San Francisco. And to kind of follow up your point as well, not only does he do the gritty, grimy stuff, but perhaps was involved in one of the most beautiful plays of that entire road trip, which was a screen out top. He sets for Shai, rolls hard to the rim, gets the pass right in the pocket. And before he even comes down after making the catch, he's already zipped the ball to Lou Dort on the baseline for a diving dunk there on that baseline cut. I mean, that play is Thunder basketball right there. And incredible that Cason's already so in sync with his teammates, like you're pointing out.
And it goes to show, like, he's not going to make a play that isn't – he's going to always work to make the right play.
Yeah.
And sometimes the right play is a lob. Sometimes the right play is just a quick, drop the ball off to Lou Dort so that he can dunk the ball. And I'm fascinated by Cason's his poise, his maturity for his age. And we were talking to Coach Daigneault at practice today about Cason's ability to, guard guys like Klay and Steph. And he's like, yes, those are developmental moments for Cason, but we're not putting him on these guys for his development. We're putting him on there because he can do it and he can guard these guys.
We need him help. We need his help.
He can help us. Mm-hmm. And then on the flip side of the ball, he's making the right play out there and the right read, and he's learning so fast, and it's so fun to watch out there.
It sure helps to have like 6 point guards on the
team.
And they all vary in sizes and heights and whatnot, but this is the team building exercise that the Thunder has undertaken, is decision makers on the floor.
Yes.
Guys that if you put them in space, that they're going to make the right choice. That if you get them the ball on the move, they're going to know where that next pass is supposed to go.
I love that. And this
you would love that as a former point guard.
Of course I would love that. Are you kidding me? Yes, it'd be amazing. But this is a good segue into the Thunder's 3-game road trip. And the first game against Golden State, just to add a little bit of context here, the Warriors without Draymond Green, who's out for a 5-game suspension, and then they were without Steph Curry, who was out with a little bit of a knee soreness. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. And so they started Chris Paul. Klay Thompson was getting very heavy minutes in that game. Jonathan Kuminga started that game. And it was I think in the back of the Thunder's mind, knowing this is still a very veteran Warriors team. They still have all-stars and Hall of Famers that are on this roster and can rock and roll and get things done, even without their leading scorer out there on the floor. And recognizing that in these sort of situations, a lot of guys step up when they have the opportunity. So I think the Thunder were very much on edge and kind of on guard about how they were going to approach this game. And they came out so strong, so disciplined, and ultimately just held Klay Thompson silent throughout this entire game.
One made field goal.
One made field goal. And the defense led to some high quality offense that kind of sparked what we're going to see, what we saw from the Thunder throughout the rest of the road trip.
Yeah, it was, to me, felt like a very vigilant performance.
Yes.
The Thunder, you use a great word, edge, like they were very aware of every scenario that they were heading into in that game, and that throughout the 48 minutes that they were going to have to remain vigilant to do their job on the defensive end. It just so happened the Thunder shot 60% from 3 that game. That certainly helped. And that's not just they were throwing the ball up there and they happened to go in. Mark Daigneault made the point, like, yeah, we shot it really well, but we don't want to take even one more extra 3 if it sacrifices the quality of the threes that we're getting. So the discipline on those 3-point attempts has been really high. The Thunder is right there near the very top of the league in 3-point percentage, but they're actually kind of middle of the pack or towards the bottom of the pack in attempts taken. I don't think that that's by accident.
No.
That is judicious shot taking, and that, the primary objective, get all the way to the rim. Yeah. And if we're generating threes, they better be really good ones.
Yeah, and the Thunder, very balanced offense as well. It just goes to show, to your point about the quality of the looks. They had 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 guys in double figures in this game. 129 points on the board, 50% from the field, 60% from 3. But everyone was sharing the ball. The ball was moving. There were 31 assists in this game, right? Like the ball is zipping around. They're playing with pace. They were really trying to get ahead of the Warriors defense, and that showed in the quality of looks that they got. It also helps when you have a guy named Isaiah Joe coming off of the bench, and he shot a perfect 7 for 7 from the 3-point line. Yep. And you remember the last time the Thunder played the Warriors before that, it was Lou Dort who went 6 for 6.
Yeah, that's right. And we have something special for you as it relates to Isaiah Joe here in just a little bit. So we won't go too in depth on him, but I think he's a great microcosm of the way in which the Thunder is generating these shots. I mean, outside of maybe 1 or 2 of these, almost every single one of them have come off of movement. Almost all of his threes this year have been assisted. And the same can be said about the threes that Josh Giddey has gotten, that Chet Holmgren has gotten. A few other of these guys, it's like 95% or above of their 3-pointers have come off of assists. And what we're seeing is, not just one drive and a kick out and then the shot. We're seeing drive again, kick to the corner, kick back up the wing. And suddenly that first advantage that was created on the initial drive, well, there's been 4 more advantages that have been created since then, and leaving that shot looking like the ones that we see at the Thunder Ion.
And it makes the defense so exhausted having to deal with that possession after possession. That has a very cumulative effect over the course of a game. And I want to go back a little bit to the defensive end for the Thunder, because I don't want to overlook the effort that the Thunder put on Klay Thompson. Obviously, Lou Dort held a heavy load in that, right? He was definitely a menace, and he definitely deserves a lot of the credit for Klay Thompson's performance in that game. However, Coach Daigneault post-game said, look, it was an all-5 effort to limit Klay Thompson. And that's what's required against elite shooters like that, who can get their shot off in an instant. They take advantage of every error on a defensive end just to launch a quick 3. They don't need a big window. And one thing that they asked was that Chet Holmgren be really high up in those pick and rolls, be up and able to contest. And he was like, Chet did a phenomenal job just staying sharp, staying very vigilant in those pick and rolls. And then you had guys like J-Dub, you had Shea, you had Cason Wallace, Lou Dort. When you have all of these guys that you can just plug and play on a guy like Klay Thompson, that's going to be very beneficial for you as well.
Well, and that's a perfect segue to go on to the second game of that mini series, because that factor really came into play in that second game, the one that went to overtime. It was a 130-123 Thunder victory. But in that game, there were large stretches where Lou Dort was on the bench pretty much the entirety of the fourth quarter. He did not play. And that was a coach's decision, not because Lou was doing a bad job, but Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, those are 48-minute players.
Yes.
And I talked to Mark, actually, as we were getting off the plane the other day. I felt like his strategy with his wing defenders in that second game was like a defensive coordinator in the NFL who's got a great defensive line, great depth on the defensive line, and they just keep cycling in pass rushers, because the Thunder, they had Lou Dort and J-Dub on Steph and Klay to start that game. And then they went to Cason Wallace and Isaiah Joe. Isaiah Joe, kind of a great matchup defensively for a guy like Steph Curry.
Definitely.
Kind of takes one to no one when it comes to like being able to move off the ball. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander comes up with the play of the game, blocking a Steph Curry 3 at the end of the game. So you really had and then Aaron Wiggins gets involved, Kenneth Williams gets involved. The Thunder basically had 6 guys that they deployed against Steph Curry and Klay Thompson throughout that game.
Yeah.
Again, much like a defensive line coach who can just rotate those tackles and pass rushers in throughout the course of a game with fresh legs.
And it helps too that all of those guys, they're great defenders, strong defenders, but also very different defenders, right? Yep. You've got Isaiah Joe, who's just super lightning quick, can kind of navigate and kind of slither his way through screens. Yep. You've got Aaron Wiggins with this super long, rangy wingspan, super athletic. J-Dub, who's just going to smother you with a 7'2" wingspan. And all these guys are just a little bit different. And so you throw different unpredictable looks and you keep Steph and Klay kind of on their toes of like, okay, how do I read this defender? What does this defender do? And you can't get into a rhythm that way.
Right. You think, okay, great, Lou Dort's off the floor. Now I can move. And then Cason Wallace is like, you're trying to put your shoulder in Cason Wallace's chest. And he's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere.
Doesn't
move. Like, oh, wait. Okay. I got to deal with this now.
Exactly. Yeah. And then that extra 5 seconds to calibrate to a new defender, those are valuable 5 seconds that they're not scoring the ball in that possession.
Yeah. And then it comes down to a pivotal possession in overtime. The Thunder is up by 3, 126-123. Mm-hmm. And of course, everyone in the entire building knows, okay, Steph Curry going to try to wiggle his way for a shot here. Yep. And I guarantee you the last thing on Steph Curry's mind was the guy that's sitting on a 40-piece across from me, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, all-NBA player from last year. Last thing on Steph's mind is, oh, this guy's going to go up and just rock this shot that I try to take. And that's exactly what Shai did. He had the fresher legs in that moment. He had the wingspan. He had the length and the height. And he got up there, blocked the shot, took it the other way, and made the game-sealing basket.
There's so many different elements to this game, and Shai's 40-piece is certainly one of the highlights. One that doesn't get talked about a lot that I really want to hone in on is the fact that the Warriors led by as many as 18 points in this game. The resilience shown by the Thunder on multiple levels, right? Coming off a really strong win against the Warriors just 2 days before this. Then you're down 18 points in the first half of this game against the Golden State Warriors, who has Steph Curry back into the lineup in this game. You've got to start navigating all of this in the Warriors arena, by the way, which is super loud. All of the Warriors fans are super into it. And then Andrew Wiggins hits a what seemed like a game-winning three-pointer with 1.7 seconds left. And the Thunder, unrattled, unfazed, plenty of time, calls a timeout, and executes to near perfection a sideline out-of-bounds play that results in a Chet Holmgren 3. And then keeps their foot on the gas for all of overtime, especially on the defensive end. All of those little elements. This is the second youngest team in the NBA, and they're showing incredible poise and composure against one of the most veteran, most highly decorated teams in the league.
This is a muscle that the Thunder has been working out for the last few years. OKC, since I believe the start of the 2021-22 season, has the most 15-point comeback wins in the entire NBA. And, you would think that would be, a team that's got more total wins during that span. But the Thunder has been in those situations before. They understand the length and the time of these games and that they're never over. They understood that with 1.6 seconds left, down by 3, that game was not over. And it just so happens that Chet Holmgren made the equivalent of that famous Derek Fisher shot coming on that sideline out of bounds play. And, being 7'1" and being able to elevate over a defender who's right in front of your face, it really helps.
It does. Let's break down this shot just a little bit because this is something that made us look. We didn't talk about it earlier. We were saving it for this moment. Chet Holmgren's three-pointer. Incredible shot by Chet. Yep. And the first thing that went through my mind was, wow, it's really quiet in here all of a sudden. Wow. But then secondly, it was, I'm so happy for Chet, knowing how hard he worked to get back to this, to put himself in a position to help this team and actually do something out there on the floor. And he gets this incredible moment, a game winner. Incredible. But something that not a lot of people noticed about that, who didn't take the shot?
Right.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. What was he doing on that play? He was setting a screen, and he set a great screen because it was one-on-one for Chet in that moment.
Speaking of Shai, there was one thing that I did hear in that moment, and it was Shai's jaw dropping, hitting the floor when Chet hit that shot. If you guys have not seen this viral moment,
you gotta
really
look.
Awesome. One of the secondary broadcast angles shows Shai's face after Chet hits the shot, and he's just
like he's seen a
like
ghost.
stone faced, like a statue, and that was so cool because these guys do amazing things all the time, and yet they still find ways to make their teammates feel in awe of them. And I think that was really special. There was somebody else who didn't take the shot on that possession, and it was Josh Giddey.
Mm-hmm.
He was not in the game in some of the previous possessions down the stretch, but Mark Daigneault trusts in Josh's, not only his passing acumen, but his maturity, his mental toughness, his fortitude, his competitiveness, to be able to go to a guy and say, hey, I'm drawing up a play that involves our all-NBA player as a screener. The pass is going to a rookie, and you're going to be the guy who's making this inbounds pass. And the discipline, the focus, and the patience that Josh delivered that pass with was a perfect pass in the perfect spot, and it set his teammate up for success.
And right after Chet hits that shot, immediately the whole arena deflates, right? Just silence. The Thunder, they're high-fiving, they're excited, but they're walking back to that bench knowing that this is not over. We still have a lot of work to do, and it is time to buckle down because overtime is upon us. And the Thunder kept their foot on the gas, truly, and walked away with an incredible overtime win. They won in OT 13-6. They held the Golden State Warriors to 6 points in those 5 minutes.
Right. I mean, you think about that during like a normal quarter, 6 minutes is 6 minutes is half of a quarter. Basically, the Thunder is on pace to hold Golden State to like a 15-point quarter in that overtime, which is like stunning. You don't hold Golden State to 15 points in a quarter.
It was a very, very business-like approach for the Thunder in that game. And then they could not sit on this game for a long time. Nope. They couldn't just rest on their laurels and just roll into the next one because the next game came the very next day in Portland. So the Thunder left Golden State that night, flew up to Portland to take on the Trailblazers. And this was going to be a really interesting test because we've seen the Thunder throughout the past couple of years now having to bounce back, right? Having to, shake off a tough loss, get back to 0-0, and then get back on track. Well, now that Thunder's coming off of a high, right? They're coming off of one of their best games of the season, super exciting, on the road, great win, great execution, and they have to level themselves back out to handle and take care of business against a Trailblazers team. And boy, did they take care of business against the Trailblazers.
I mean, that was perhaps one of the most dominant performances in recent memory by the Thunder, and it was so totally businesslike. I didn't see, any wavering at all from focus, game plan. The biggest thing that we noticed that was deviated from just going out and robotically doing the job was the smile between Isaiah Joe and Lou Dort that we saw. And that was basically as they were running into the halftime locker room. It was just very workmanlike. And the really cool thing about this one was that extended 48 minutes and extended to the entire roster that got to play in this game. It was 14 guys that got into the game, and every single one of them executed throughout the entirety of the game. And
all but one guy scored. Everybody got in on the action. Everyone executed. And we're talking guys, Olivier Sarr, Alexei Pokusevski, Lindy Waters III, Aaron Wiggins, Isaiah Joe, Trey Mann, just all of these guys whose minutes have fluctuated throughout the season, who haven't seen a consistent part of the rotation, came in. And I love this quote from Coach Daigneault. He said it a couple of times now where he said, you cannot fake sharpness. You can't fake being ready in an NBA game. You will get exposed very quickly. And these guys like Vasilije Micic, Davis Bertans, coming in, executing well, taking care of business on the defensive end, and just making the right play, not trying to go out there and prove themselves of why they need more minutes or things like that. They're just going out there and playing Thunder basketball. And like you're saying, the Thunder's defense did not waver for any of that 48-minute stretch. The Thunder's offensive execution, yes, they shot the ball incredibly well, but they were still generating those high-quality looks that they had been over those past two games. Yeah, our friend of the pod, Royce Young, tweeted out a clip that I've also included in my weekly Drive and Dish newsletter that's a part of our Thunder Insider email that you all should definitely sign up for. If you're not, definitely go check it out.
This play came at the 8:58 mark of the fourth quarter. And it was Trey Mann dribble drive down the baseline. The ball had moved 3 or 4 times before that. He kicks it to the wing to Lindy Waters. Lindy had a pretty decent look, but he recognized that Portland's rotation was coming out, defender was coming out to him. He makes the extra pass into the corner to Aaron Wiggins, who buries a wide open three. And it was just one of those plays like Lindy Waters hasn't gotten much burn here lately. There's a lot of guys in this league that they get the smallest crack in a moment like that, and that shot is going up. And with no hesitation whatsoever, I mean, the sharpness, again, to your point, with which he just zipped that pass down in the corner. And, that internal calculus of like, okay, this is a 38% shot, but that shot in the corner, that's a 45% shot. And I'm getting it to that guy. And Aaron Wiggins cans a three. And it's like, Isaiah Joe told us after the game, when the ball moves, the ball has energy to it. And it's like becoming a way of life for these guys in such a really beautiful way.
It's beautiful basketball to watch, first of all. Seeing all these guys get involved. Nobody is just pounding the ball into the ground. Matter of fact, nearly, I would say like 8 times out of 10, if I'm going into halftime to talk to an assistant coach and I'm saying, what do you want to see more offensively? If the Thunder's like struggling offensively, they'll say, we got to move the ball. Like if it gets sticky, that's when things start to get a little problematic for us. The ball has energy. It's got to move. It's got to hit different guys' hands. And it's really fun to watch and obviously generates some really quality outcomes for OKC. Now, they're not going to shoot, like you said, they're not going to shoot 60% from the 3-point line for the remainder of the season. Might not happen the next game either. But what's sustainable from this is the style of play and the pace they're playing with, the way they're moving the ball, the way that they're moving without the ball. Guys cutting. There's just so much action on the floor that it's going to guarantee you 9 times out of 10 a quality look. And if it doesn't fall, being able to rely on your defensive end that you're bringing every single game. That's something that the Thunder said, Coach Dagnall said, that's something that can't slip for us. That can't waver. That part of our identity cannot dip at any point. And if you remain true to that, you remain true to your identity and style of play offensively, you're setting yourself up for success. And that's sustainable over the course of an 82-game stretch.
Yeah, and they're going to wax and wane
100%.
On that. It's just bound to happen. But what we're seeing, I think, even so far in this early portion of the season is a Thunder being able to sustain that for longer stretches in games and for longer stretches of a week and longer stretches of a 2-week period. And so that's the challenge for this Thunder team is like at the end of the year when we're in March and April, are they able to make those extended stretches of sustaining this style of play entire games, entire weeks, an entire playoff series if they get to that point.
Right. And we got to talk about one guy who had a very consistent stretch here for the Thunder. In this game against Portland, shot 5 of 6 from the 3-point line, had 15 points. Isaiah Joe, who has just been lighting it up, truly. We all know that Isaiah Joe is just a great 3-point shooter, but every time we talk to Coach Dagnall about him, what does he say? He's a complete player. He can do a lot out there.
We could harmonize that at this point.
I'll take the high. Yeah. But he goes out there. He competes defensively. He's going to dive on the floor for the loose ball. He's going to take a charge. He's going to crash. He had a rebound the other day in Golden State. Skied in. He was the smallest guy on the floor and just ripped the ball out of the air and started the fast break. That's Isaiah Joe. He's going to play team basketball. And he's a complete player who just so happens to be an elite shooter. Over the past 5 games, I gotta shout out our guy Chris Josephson for sending in these stats because this is perfect timing, CJ. Over the last 5 games, 11.8 points for Isaiah Joe. But he has shot 66.7% from the 3-point line. Unreal.
So nasty.
Unreal. And we're talking, this is a pretty decent sample size.
Yeah.
17 for 22, Nick Gallo.
That's wild.
Isaiah Joe, 17 for 22 over the last 5.
And he's kind of back to what we talked about at the beginning of the pod. He's taking good ones.
Yes.
And they are being generated for him by the Thunder's offense. Mm-hmm. And if the team keeps abiding by that, these percentages are probably going to look pretty good this year. They're not going to look 67% good,
right,
but they're going to look good enough that it's going to continue that like positive reinforcement of this is how we play.
Yes. Yeah. And the high percentages we're seeing from Isaiah Joe, they're also a reflection of the high character of Isaiah Joe. And that's because of He's only taking good ones out there, like you're saying. He's not going out there and just hunting opportunities for himself. He's playing within the team concept. He's playing within the system and the style of play that the Thunder wants to play. And we actually had a chance to sit down and talk to Isaiah Joe earlier this year just to get to know and get into the mind of this sharpshooter and complete player. And boy, we learned a lot. Take a listen. All right, we are now joined by Isaiah Joe. Isaiah, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, I appreciate you for having me.
How you doing?
I'm great. Yourself?
I'm feeling really good.
Love that.
This is a great day because during the summer, I got a chance to go to Fort Smith, Arkansas. Saw you in Fort Smith. Met some of your teachers there as well. We heard that from one of your old high school teachers that synthesis is a very important word for you, and that one of your teachers, she told you to think of the word synthesis every time you shot a three-pointer during the state tournament, and that if you did that, she would give you Smarties.
Smarties.
Yes. Was it the Smarties that was the motivation, or was it?
It was definitely the Smarties that was the motivation, but she knew that.
I saw that you got a lot of Smarties after that game as well.
Yeah, sure did.
Oh my goodness.
Sure did.
That was such a unique experience, getting a chance to meet your high school teachers and be back in Fort Smith.
Yeah, they're the best. Yeah, they're amazing.
Do you have a lot of memories from that time in your life?
Yeah, I mean, it's high school. I think the majority of my friends are there. So I think just going through that experience with them, we had some great teachers that, led great experiences, but definitely going through that with my guys playing basketball, state championship, all of that. It was definitely a time.
Well, clearly you were a sharpshooter back then too, because you got a lot of Smarties after that one game. But everyone sees your really impressive shooting numbers. Everyone knows you're a good shooter, but what happens behind the scenes to make sure that what we see under the bright lights happens?
Repetition, just, hard work day in and day out in the gym every night. I have a really great circle. I keep my circle really small, but the people that are in it are all beneficial in a way, whether that's on or off the court. So I have a really good foundation, but just putting in the hours, I think is pretty self-explanatory. It's a simple recipe. It's just not, you got to be willing to take the time.
Has that been like just the tried and true method for you, or is that repetition, that's something that you had to learn over the course of your career?
No, it's always been there. I think it started, as a kid, you have the times where you don't want to be in the gym, so you have your whoever is pushing you, which was my dad. He's the one that kept me in the gym at a very young age until I, learned the self-motivation to be able to go in there on my own and be in there morning, middle of the day, and night. But yeah, that repetition and the sacrifice of, other things you wanted to do to be in the gym to get better started at a young age.
And clearly that repetition, that paid off big for you. Obviously, you've got a great opportunity here in Oklahoma City. Can you put into perspective what it's felt like to have a fresh start here with this organization?
And it's been a blast. It's been fun. I'm really grateful for the opportunity that Sam and Mark has given me to come in here and show what I can do. Big shout out to my teammates for trusting in me, being on the court with them. It's been an experience, and I don't know if I know, but I don't know if everybody else knows, but I'm close to home. So my parents get to go to all the games, so I get to chop it up with them after every single home game. So that's been a blessing in itself, but definitely looking forward to continue into this next season, build new memories.
I mean, families come to game, high school teachers, the one that gave you the Smarties was at a game.
We had a big show out that game. There was, I want to say 60 plus teachers at that.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that many.
It was 50 plus, I believe. Yeah, it was a lot of teachers there. I think they're planning on doing it again this year, maybe a bigger number. So.
Oh man, we'll be on the lookout for that Fort Smith contingent coming to Oklahoma City.
For sure.
But even when your shot's not falling, Isaiah, you're still able to be out there on the floor. What goes into that? Why is that the case?
Yeah, it just can't be one-dimensional in this game. I think your offense can be off and on, but I got to predicate my game on something else, and I try to predicate that on my defense. Being quote-unquote undersized, people, see me as a liability on the defensive end until I show them otherwise. So that's really been a chip on my shoulder ever since I was young, because I've always been smaller than the competition, but I have to, go out there with different energy, different physicality, show them I can, hang with the best of them, especially on the defensive end.
No, let's talk about that for a little bit, because being undersized, people don't realize, especially in the NBA, that's really easy to exploit. What do you do out there to make sure that that's not the case?
Yeah, so first it just starts with, having IQ. Just being in the right places at the right times can make up for, a lot of things, mid-game. Other than that, just, I really work on my foot speed, my lateral quickness, so I can cut guys off. And I'm what they call wiry strong. So guys try to back me down, and it may take them more dribbles than they thought it would have taken, to do so. But yeah, I think one of my biggest attributes on my defense is just being like in the help side, or just being in the right spot at the right time.
That help side defense, that's typically where those charge opportunities come. Is that where you've been able to kind of get a lot of those opportunities?
Yeah, no, it makes it a lot easier when you're there, if you're not late on rotations. So if you're there, I'm gonna be there to take the charge every single time.
Take that contact all day. Yes, make that to your advantage. We often hear how important confidence is when you're out there on the floor, especially for a shooter, right? How important is humility?
You gotta be able, to have the confidence, but be able to bring yourself down with the humility. Stay even out there. But definitely both play a big part in just being successful. You can't be too high, can't be too low on either one. So yeah, definitely things I feel like I have out there when I'm on the court, as well as my other teammates.
Yeah. I was going to talk about your teammates, because it seems like they give you a lot of confidence when you're out there on the floor. Yeah. Can you tell us about that dynamic?
Yeah, so you got to have, confidence in yourself that you can do it, but it makes it, a hell of a lot easier whenever the coaching staff and your teammates have the confidence in you as well. Whether you're having a good night or a bad night, they still, instill their confidence in you throughout the game.
Do you have any specific memories of either this past season or any time where your teammates have been the ones to lift your spirits?
Yeah, I mean, last season I think I had a cold streak of, I want to say I was like 0-18 from three. Like, this was, I think, after All-Star break. But kept coming to me, kept saying shoot the ball. I mean, I'm gonna shoot the next one like it's going in, regardless. What you're gonna do, one or two things, you're gonna make or miss it. So they had the confidence in me. The coaching staff had the confidence in me. I had the confidence in myself. It was gonna turn around eventually. I was just gonna keep shooting them like they were going in.
Repetition, not just to get to where you are now, but repetition to get out of a funk too. That also helps you as well. Yeah, for sure.
That, and then just having people like my trainer that lives with me, my dad, that knows my shot probably better than I do. He helps me out a lot. So after every game or whatever, after practice, I'll give him a call, see what we need to work on. Lay out the plan and then go from there.
All right, we've talked about Fort Smith a little bit, but for those who don't know, tell us about your hometown and what makes Fort Smith so special.
Yeah, I think Fort Smith is special to me because it's a very tight community. I'm really big on family, and I'm really big on the people in my circle, and I think that all started, just being born and raised there. Everywhere I've been, from elementary school, middle school, high school, been really close with everybody. And so just building that bond, building that relationship with people just helped me whenever I go off to play basketball, build chemistry with my teammates, coaching staff, all that. So definitely, I'm very blessed to be born and raised in Fort Smith, Arkansas. I appreciate my parents for, raising me there. So not a big city. So definitely grew up with a chip on my shoulder for, trying to, not too many people make it out of Fort Smith, professional, like on the biggest of stages. So I think me and Jalen are a test, just what, you can look forward to out of Fort Smith.
What's there to do? Where are you going to go eat when you're out in Fort Smith?
Shoot, when I'm in Fort Smith, I'm an activity person. So you may know, but I golf. I golf a lot. So I like to go golfing. One thing I picked up a lot really this summer, I started kind of doing it last summer, but really this summer was bowling.
Really?
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
Random, I don't know. We had a group of guys that I work out with back in Fort Smith. We went bowling a couple of times just to go do it. And then, being an athlete, being competitive, we started taking it serious. Next thing I know, I'm buying a bowling ball. So, yeah, I got a name calling me right now.
You got the shoes too?
No, I haven't got the shoes yet. I'm not that committed.
Okay.
But maybe one day. I don't know.
All right.
But, I mean, other than that, we have some nice restaurants. Nothing crazy. Go out to eat with the family. I'm really a homebody, so what we'll do a lot was we'll find a movie at home, order some food to the house, and eat and have a good time, watch a movie.
It's a hometown. Like, it really is a hometown.
It is, yeah.
I love that. All right, switching gears a little bit. Do you remember when you fell in love with the game of basketball?
Oh, I think it was kind of forced upon me, to be quite honest with you, because my dad was a AAU coach before I was born, so I was kind of born into it. When I was born, we had basketballs, golf clubs, soccer balls at the house, and traveling with the guys ever since birth. So I just kind of, even if I wanted to, I couldn't get away from it. So yeah, you just gotta sometimes you stick to what you know long enough, and you just end up falling in love with it.
Okay, so you're in your 4th NBA season now. Mm-hmm. Crazy to think about. You've had a tremendous journey up to this point. When you think of your game day routine, has it evolved over the course of your time in the
NBA? Little, not a lot. I mean, I'm very simple when it comes to game day routine, but I do kind of keep it the same. Whether I listen to some lo-fi beats, lyrics, just to clear my mind, calm my nerves, and then whenever I'm on the court, I think that's probably what's changed the most is my court warm up. That's kind of changed throughout the years, but definitely the necessary changes for sure.
Tell us about that on-court work that you do before the game. What's really important that you get in during that time?
Yeah, I think for me, it's really, at the end of the day, it's really about focus. But you also want to warm up on the shots that you're going to take mostly in the game. So I think that's what we do a really good job. Mike Wilkes is my guy whenever I'm out there. So we would do a really good job of implementing some game-like shots. Just trying to stay warm, trying to get precise, trying to be focused for whenever it's game time, we're ready.
How did you learn to make the most of that time? What was that process like?
Yeah, I think over time you just kind of figure out, okay, this is what you're doing on the court. This is what we're going to do in our little short workout that we have. And we know how many shots we're making. We know how many shots we're making, what we're doing in the next spot. So it's really quick and it's really simple. I think once you get the hang of it after the first 2 games, really it's just kind of like second nature. And
clearly it's worked for you because when your name's called in the 4th quarter and they need a quick 3, they know they can call Isaiah Joe and he's ready to go.
Yeah, that's speaking of that, that's actually something I've worked on, in my last couple of years or last few years being in the league is being able to come off the bench and be ready because sometimes you want to get in the game, you want to get loose, but most of the times you're out there, you got a short little spurt to make something happen or just to be an impact. So just having that ability to come off the bench, cold and just be able to perform is something I really predicate my game in.
Are you thinking about anything specific when you're on the bench?
No, I think for me it's just being engaged in everything. Whether you're in the game or not, whenever a timeout is called, be engaged, know what's going on the court. Like if somebody's in foul trouble and coach calls you to sub in, you should pretty much know that you're going to get that person because they're in foul trouble. You know what I mean? It's just whatever we're running that night, just find the trends in the game and just be ready for whenever you're out there on the court.
Isaiah Joe, always locked in, always focused.
Gotta be.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Isaiah, thanks so much for taking the time. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate you, Paris.
Great talking to you.
Thank you.
What an incredible interview with Isaiah Joe. Thank you so much to Isaiah for taking the time and sharing with us because we learned a lot about him. And the one thing that, Nick, I know you found really interesting was just his ability to be able to come off the bench ready to go, but his ability to work on that and get better at that.
How do you practice coming off the bench cold? Like that was a really cool thing to hear that he's thought about his his position in this league. He understands his place in the league as a whole within the Thunder ecosystem, that this is a skill outside of the skill of playing basketball that I need to work on and perfect. And that makes total, knowing Isaiah, it makes sense, but I just can't. It was so cool to hear him say it out loud.
It just sparked something for me because we've talked about this with former Thunder players before, where it's they have such a clear role, and it allows them to grow deeper in that role when it's so defined and it's clear. And rather than kind of spreading wider, they just grow roots. And so for Isaiah, okay, I know my role. I know I'm, going to come off the bench. I know I'm out there hunting opportunities, hunting shots. Okay, if I get run off the line, here's what I need to work on so that I'm not just just a shooter and I'm not just a ball mover. Okay, I need to work on coming off the bench and immediately being put into a situation where the play is drawn up for me to get a three. I need to be ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, but that requires immense humility in the midst of being ready for a shot for himself. It requires humility to what you're saying of most guys in his position, 25 and younger, they're thinking about, okay, what do I need to do to become a starter? What do I need to do to be able to play 38 minutes a night? Instead, he's thinking about, what do I need to do to be able to play the 16 minutes that I get tonight, the best that I can possibly play them? That takes an incredible amount of humility and self-awareness.
And all of these guys have that, which is incredible to have a roster full of guys who are team first guys, who the sum has to be better. Oh gosh, I always mess this up. The whole has to be greater than the sum of the parts.
There you go.
There it is. Yeah. But that's the ethos of this entire roster, and it shows. And Isaiah is just a great example of that. And honestly, just a great guy, just to talk to post game, just to hear his thoughts during a game. He's always talking about the team, and that character just really shines through.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I mean, we're so blessed on this team to have the guys that we have. I mean, every single one of these interviews that we've shared with you, they're such great guys. They're so easy to talk to.
Yeah.
It's just been a blast this year so far. And what's cool, we have so many more games left to go.
That's so true.
We still almost have 70 games left.
This is true. Yeah. This is true. All right, let's get up to the next two games on the Thunder's schedule. And this is a really nice stretch, as we mentioned. The Thunder only one game in a matter of 4 days. That game is going to be on Wednesday, tomorrow for us, against the Chicago Bulls, who the Thunder beat. That was the first game of the season for OKC out in Chicago. Now they're hosting the Bulls here at home on Wednesday. Then they get a couple of days off for Thanksgiving and Black Friday. And then on Saturday, they take on the Philadelphia 76ers.
Globally, Mark Daigneault has talked about the key for this Thunder team being to continue to stack these experiences where they have to cut through the noise, cut through distractions. This week is a really sneaky good week for that, right? You just come off of this long road trip that's crazy and wacky and wild, and a lot of stuff was going on in San Francisco when we were there, and then you have the back-to-back, and you play great. Then you come back home, you've got 2 days off. You play a game against an Eastern Conference team that you've already seen, who is not performing up to their standards so far this season. Then you get another 2 days off, a holiday. You got some extra time here at home. People's families are going to be in town. Then you've got the Philadelphia 76ers, who's an Eastern Conference team whose season is going the other direction compared to Chicago. They have been incredible so far this year. How the Thunder maintains its concentration, its focus, and its rhythm as a team over this next 5-6 day span, going to be really fascinating to see.
And Thanksgiving, you've got family in town. Just all of these could be external factors that might impact. But what we've seen from the Thunder so far this season have been really strong indications that what's happening on the floor is main priority number one, and we're here to handle business. So be sure to tune in, because that'll be really interesting to see the second youngest team in the NBA be battle tested yet again, this time on their home floor.
That's right.
But until then, thank you so much for watching and listening. Be sure to like, rate, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much again to Isaiah Joe for taking the time to talk to us. Thank you so much to our producer, Matt Bishop. And until next time, Thunder up, and catch you later.